Hey everybody, it's Josh Rutledge, your co-host for FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us more, please head over to our website, fearscapepodcast.com. There you can click on store and browse some really awesome t-shirts and maybe pick a couple up, or even go to our Patreon page and see how you can support us monthly. We love bringing you awesome content just as much as you like listening to it. Enjoy the show.
Hello. I'm so glad you could join us. I hope you brought your blanket to hide under. The spooky crew is going to discuss things and events from other realms. Ghosts, cryptids, aliens. Be sure to hold your blanket extra tight as the boys take you deep into the FearScape.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another enlightening episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast. I am your host, Stefan Gearhart, and I am here to share with you the secrets of the universe. And I couldn't do that without my host, Josh Rutledge, who, in my opinion, is the most respected frogman of all of Loveland, Ohio. You are the most respected.
Of all the frogmen.
Of all the frogmen.
Just so we're clear, just because I don't know if any military people are listening, I am not a Navy SEAL.
No, I mean a legit man that's like a frog.
Frog, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I eat flies, is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
you don't snore when you sleep, you croak. And I don't mean you die.
What if you died every night and reborn every morning?
I mean, there are people that believe that. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. We've got a great episode. Obviously, last week we had part one of the incredibly enlightening interview with the esteemed and venerable Alan Greenfield, the author of the Complete Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts, incredible ufologist, friends with John Keel and Gray Barker, and all those guys from Point Pleasant and all that, as well as, master of the occult. And you may have seen him on an episode of the docu-series Hellier.
Yeah.
But we got a chance to talk to him, and we had so much goodness that we decided not to edit it. And so we decided to do two parts.
Yep.
So today you'll get to hear part two of all that. That's where we just dig deeper into questions about, UTs and ETs and all of that jazz, and just get his theories and opinions on all sorts of stuff. But before we get to that, I mean, hey, let's rock and roll and dig right into our first segment, which is the psychic word of the week.
And now, the psychic word of the week.
And as usual, I have the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June Bletzer. Rest in peace, my honey baby. And we have flipped through, as usual, flipped forward and backward until we kind of felt, all right, now's a good time to stop. We actually landed on page 10, so we're not usually in the A's very often, so this is pretty awesome, which is funny. So the word that I find is Agartha. But what I laughed at is that over here on the other side, the second word that grabbed my eye was Iwaz, which is Aleister Crowley's buddy, which, since, we're talking to Alan Greenfield, it's all synchronicities to me.
Right. And if we're in a mirror universe, maybe you're supposed to read Iwaz.
Maybe. But the reason I find it very interesting is because, again, the word that we grabbed on, and it is actually just one word 2 weeks in a row, kind of fits. We just finished up recording a FearScape Unhinged episode where we talked about the civilizations, ancient civilizations and origins of humans and stuff like that. Wait till you hear the word. So the word is Agartha, and that's Agartha. Arta, and it comes from some line of Buddhism, because I don't think it's mainline Buddhism, probably a Tibetan Buddhism. But what it says is, Agartha is the subterranean world in the hollow of the earth, connected by two places on Earth proper, believed to be first colonized many thousands of years ago by those who fled there to be saved from the sinking of, you guessed it, Atlantis. Colonists are far advanced of our own civilization today. There are some scientists that have a hypothesis that this is also the home base of some types of flying saucers. And the capital there is a word you may have heard before, a city called Shambhala. So very, very interesting, since we discussed a little bit about Hollow Earth theory and Atlantis and those things. I had no idea that Buddhism touched on Atlantis.
Well, and it's really interesting too, because they allude. So they say that they fled there with the sinking of Atlantis, right? So if Atlantis is sinking, why can't you go somewhere else on Earth? Why go inner Earth? Makes you wonder if Atlantis was the reason of the Great Flood.
Right, or happened during the flood.
Yeah.
Right, or from what we talked about in Unhinged, was it the Ice Age, the caps melting and flooding all of the Earth for a moment. But this also tells me this place existed already if they knew where to go.
Right.
Right, was this part of maybe... Oh, wow, just weird Stefan theory here. One of them creating this hollow plane grabbed too much heat from the center of the Earth, and it's what melted the ice caps. Because we don't know why.
Created like a chimney, if you will.
Yeah, because if it's 2 points, it would assume that there's opposite ends of the world. And what if that heat is what created the greenhouse effect and all that jazz, and created the next...
Not actually cow farts, as we were.
No. But, because I've had that theory that the Atlanteans, it wasn't that they were water people, it's that they were ice people, right? That maybe they lived on top of the ice. So, okay, now hear me out. Richard Donner, director of the first Superman movie, right? What if the Kryptonians, because the Kryptonians there were ice people, right? What if that is what Atlantis was kind of like? And then you remember when it got too close to the sun, so all of a sudden the ice is melting and cities are just falling and people are like, falling down and stuff like that.
Right.
That could have been Atlantis, and Richard Donner might have been part Atlantean.
Well, so since we're the topic for tonight, I went ahead and plug Agartha into the Secret Cipher. Ooh. And it comes back with a total of 54, which if you bring that down to a single number...
is 9, which is a number that keeps coming up for us quite a bit.
What was the Shambhala?
Shambhala. Shamballah.
So if we do Shambhala Agartha, which would be like the city and the state, if you will, that's 115, which is 7 if you bring it all down. So not really significant there. Just Shambhala by itself is 61, which is 7. Interesting enough.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it cross references though with land you lost.
No, that's just 12, which would be 3. Well, 3 could be divided into 9 if you were going to break a 9 down. So.
Yeah. Excuse me, do you have change for my 9? Yeah, I got 3 3s. Here you go.
Well, you can't break 3 down into an even split, so.
No, you can't.
Yeah, Atlantis. What do we got at Atlantis?
94.
Which is 13, which is 4.
But, a lot of speculation that land you lost is actually land you lost.
Yeah.
Which would be Atlantis. It is the land you lost.
Right.
Which...
And also Lando Lakes.
That's true, too. I'm not going to put that in the
living
cipher.
in the land of the lost. Living in the land of... You put Krypton in?
I did.
Good man.
107.
107 in Park. That's not even what it was. That's 8.
Yeah, you could... trust me. I spent a lot of hours plugging random things into the Secret Cipher to see.
Speaking of plugging, guys, check out thesecretcipher.com, and you can put in your own test phrases and all that stuff into the cipher, there's a program that does it for you because people like me don't math. But anyways, yeah. So Agartha, very, very interesting. Very, very cool. Thank you, June Bletzer. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into our next segment here so we can get it back to Alan Greenfield, which is a little bit of spooky news. So I have a weird one, and this one...
That's good. It'll fit in.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. It's not a paranormal thing, and it's not even a space thing. It's just something strange. And scientists have no idea what's going on. Normally, I want things a little more paranormal, but I kept coming back to this story. It comes from CNN.com. The headline reads, "More than 360 elephants die from mysterious causes in Botswana." The article goes on to say more than 360 elephants have died in mysterious circumstances in Botswana in the past 3 months, according to local conservationists. Some carcasses were found clustered around water holes, while others appeared to have died falling flat on their faces, according to Niall McCann, the director of conservation at the United Kingdom charity National Park Rescue. Live elephants seen nearby appeared physically weak, and one was walking in circles, unable to change directions, observers said. Other species in the area did not appear to have been affected by whatever struck down the elephants. The Botswana government is testing samples from the dead elephants, but it is yet to determine a cause of death. The unusual number of elephant carcasses were first recorded at the start of May 2020, McCann said. And there are a lot of pictures on here, by the way, of dead elephants, and it's kind of creepy. But anyways, they go on to say, "It's appalling. We need to know what the hell is going on," he said, adding that he couldn't recall another time when so many elephants died from a mystery cause. Now, Botswana is home to 130,000 African elephants, more than any other country on the continent. This is the Okavango Delta, where the carcasses were found, and is home to around 10% of the country's elephants. Last year, Botswana scrapped an elephant hunting ban it had in place in 2014, sparking an international outcry. McCann said poaching could not be ruled out at this time, although the tusks were still on the elephants, as was the entire carcass. 800 of them are lying around as a magnet for criminals, he added, and yet no one is taking the tusks. McCann said that there were a number of possibilities for what could have caused the deaths, including possibly an elephant-specific parasite or even COVID-19. What I would like to emphasize, he says, is that this has the potential to be a huge public health crisis. Whatever the cause, McCann said it was important to get to the bottom of it, as already the loss of elephant life was significant globally. The African elephant, of course, is classified as vulnerable on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List. The first Great Elephant Census, a Pan-African survey conducted in 2016, revealed that in just 7 years between 2007 and 2014, elephant numbers plummeted by at least 30%, or 144,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have no idea why these elephants are dying. And so immediately you think, oh, maybe the water, maybe this, but there are no other creatures that are dying.
Yeah.
It is literally just elephants.
If it was a watering hole thing, then yeah.
Right, but of course, they're not ruling out poachers, but again, the poachers are not taking anything. I mean, and so unless it's just some elephant assassin poacher,
yeah.
I don't know. Or they said it may be some sort of elephant-related illness that is, or even COVID-19. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It makes me wonder, though, do they use an online portal for the elephant census, or do they mail those out?
Well, they get like Mowgli and those guys. They have to go. Pride or not Pride, whatever they're called. What are they called?
Pod.
They're not pods.
Are they pods? I don't know.
They're called. I think they might just be called families.
Okay.
I don't know, but from group to group to knock on tusks or knock on ears to get the census.
How many in your family? How much money do you make?
Jeez. How long have you lived? But yeah, it's extremely sad, especially because, elephants are one of those
yeah.
animals that are not doing well in terms of keeping their numbers up.
You know,
poachers.
and we talked about, I can't remember where we talked about it in the Alan Greenfield interview, so it may have come up last week or it may be in this week's episode, but we talk about other intelligent life on the Earth, and we mentioned dolphins, but elephants is also one of those that
elephants, as well as many of the primates.
Yep.
And things like that. Yeah, very, very interesting. But yeah, that's, like I said, not spooky, just odd news and scary in a different kind of way.
Yeah,
kind of news. But yeah, let's perk up the show here for a second by giving us the next segment, which is the UFO sighting of the week, because there's nothing more wonderfully happy than someone being freaked out by something they don't understand what it is in the sky. All right, Josh, so we've got our UFO sighting of the week, which is coming from where this week?
This actually comes from Burkesville, Kentucky.
Oh, so kind of close to home.
Yeah, I've actually got family in Burkesville.
Oh, awkward.
Yeah, well, I don't know if anyone
wrote I thought you were going to say this is them. This is your family.
Like the ship is my family?
It's your mother's ship.
My space family.
Alan Greenfield is my space family. That's for sure.
All right, so this actually occurred on July 3rd at 11:45 in the evening.
Close to my sightings. Mine was on in between the 4th and the 5th.
So it goes to say,
while sitting outside Friday night, I looked to the south and noticed an object moving in the sky from east to west. The number and color of the lights on the object is what grabbed my immediate attention. There was a row of 3 to 5 orangish lights on top. The middle had 5 to 7 reddish lights, and the bottom row was 3 to 5 orangish lights. The top and bottom rows seemed to flash in synchronicity. While they were off, the middle row was on. It was flying low. There are numerous hills in my area. It was between 800 to 1,200 yards away, maybe 400 feet off the ground. It made no sound. There are no airports near me and no flight paths of any kind. The weather was clear at the time. I was on my phone with a friend and described it to him, and he suggested fireworks. I've seen fireworks my whole life and aircraft of all kinds of descriptions. I'm a retired Navy veteran and have watched airplanes my whole life. I have never seen anything like this, especially the light array on this thing. It was kind of eerie and awesome at the same time. I truly believe that this was not any sort of craft of this world. If I had to guess at dimensions, I'd say it was approximately 50 feet long and 50 feet tall. The pattern of light suggested the middle portion of the craft was longer than the top and bottom, hence the oval shape. The way the lights were flashing suggests to me they were following the circumference of the craft, because there was brief intervals where the side was lights out. That way you can give exact counts of lights.
I get really upset because I had a number of people, of course, tell me, my sighting was obviously a firework. Well, guess what? It's like, you hear fireworks.
Yeah.
And here's a guy,
right?
There's no fireworks going off near him. So more than, and if he's in a little valley, if there's hills everywhere, it's gonna echo.
Yeah.
And if you're not hearing any booms, it is obvious, especially the way that they're laid perfectly like that, and then we're in synchronicity with each other, and to be able to judge the distance, based off the hills, so he could get an idea of how big this thing was.
Yep.
It's pretty impressive. More impressive than my own, and man, what a sighting.
Well, and just for some anecdotal information here, Burkesville, Kentucky is just 5 miles from Lake Cumberland.
Okay. So we've been talking. Did we talk about that on the show, or has that just been a
I think that's you and me conversation, but why not share it here?
Yeah, go ahead with your theory.
So I went back and looked at a lot of, or not all, not a lot, all of the reportings that were investigated as part of Project Blue Book that had to do with UFO sightings. Now, if they went and investigated for like Area 51, for example, I didn't look at that as a case. But any case where it was a UFO sighting or like the Flatwoods Monster and that sort of thing, I went and looked, and they were all in really close proximity to larger bodies of water. Now made me think about the Men in Black stories, where the Men in Black would always ask for a glass of water. And so it made me think, well, if you're an interstellar spacecraft or even an interplanetary one, and you're traveling, you probably don't have room for large amounts of water. So if it, I just wondered how many sightings that are seen close to water, because they have to disengage whatever invisibility, whatever that they have, to bring water on board. Especially
these large ship sightings, right? Because Battlestar Galactica, they had to do that a lot, where they had to find water, right?
Yep.
And things like that. And it's like, when water only lasts so long if you don't have a replicator.
Right. So. I mean, it's, we kind of, I think, take that kind of stuff for granted. But I mean, even our International Space Station, they have to send supplies up all the time, and water is one of them.
Yeah.
So
now, what about how close is Burkesville to Somerset? Because I know with Lake Cumberland being there, it shouldn't be far.
Let's see if
There's
I can
Monticello.
Find it on the map real quick. To the right, right here.
Yeah.
So from there,
so it's the other side of the lake, essentially.
Other side of the lake, yeah, it's 10 miles.
Well, because with Hellier season 2, they talked a lot about Somerset, and of course, a really good friend of mine lives in Somerset.
45 miles. My apologies.
Oh, that's okay. As the crow flies. But yeah, so and that also gets near Cumberland Falls and all of that stuff. Yeah, well, Lake Cumberland has a lot of sightings,
and there are a crap ton of caves in this
area. Oh yeah. So, and like I said, once again, kind of regurgitating the Hellier theory there, right. That there is something about that area as well.
Our psychic word referred to
Agartha, yeah.
The space in the earth where they retreated. So there's just a lot of references to support a hollow earth theory, as well as the cave theory, as well as
right. And I want to go ahead and tell people, because this is not something that I knew. The hollow earth theory does not imply that there is no core.
Right.
That's what I thought for a very, very long time. Any Jules Verne stuff, that's what I always thought, was that they went down to the Earth's core and there was nothing there. No, this just implies that there is a deeper, broader, larger cave system that goes even deeper into the crust that we can even imagine, and that there are cities and civilizations that either once lived there or still live there.
I mean, the Earth as a whole is I don't remember the exact numbers. We could look it up, but I mean, it's really deep to get to the core, and
which we've never been.
Right,
it's too deep.
Well, it would be probably too hot too.
Yeah.
But anyways, when you think about where we live, we're like Parmesan cheese sprinkled on top of a pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we live, right? That's the space we live in. So we haven't even gotten down to like the red sauce.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Close.
So I mean, it's just so to assume that we understand completely the possibilities of our planet is ridiculous.
Yeah. Agreed. And makes me think of that movie, The Core, which was really good, by the way. But anyways, yeah, so UFO sighting of the week. Thank you for whomever that was that shared that with New Fork. What a great sighting. And I say this to all of our UFO sighters. Thank you for being brave.
Yeah.
We are collecting UFO sightings right now, so you can go on to FearScapePodcast.com and go to Submit a Sighting. You can share your UFO sighting or any other, cryptids, ghosts, any of that stuff. Share those stories and just let us know that we have permission to share those, as we are trying to collect incredible data to see how they all relate. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess that puts us to Creepy Catch-Up. I had a very, very light week, but we'll get into it anyway. So let's go ahead and move into that so we can get to Alan Greenfield.
Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Y'all, it's creepy.
All right, Creepy Catch-Up. Like I said, I have not had a damn thing happen to me this past week, which is fine. I like weeks like that, but it also, in a lot of ways, tells me I'm so stressed I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
Though I have been out a few times to just look at the stars, but nothing grabbed my eyes. Nothing paranormal. Even with me being back in the office at work, I expected to be bombarded by the ghosts that are there.
Right.
Nothing. So.
Yeah, I have not had anything, I would say, major happen. I've had a few small things. So, last weekend when we did the Greenfield interview with Mr. Alan Greenfield himself, we also did a couple of Estes sessions.
That's true. We did do that.
And we experimented this time with what I'll call enhanced deprivation sessions.
Yeah,
so it is like an Estes session, but what we did is before we went into the Estes session, we listened to like 6 or 7 minutes of binaural tones meant to open your third eye.
Right, as well as kind of get your brain ready
to receive, or to hear those thoughts.
Now, I will say on that, and I talked to our friend Santosh about that, is that in one regards, I think that I was falling asleep a whole bunch, but I wouldn't have kept waking up. I think that I was indeed almost hypnotized, so to speak, because I've been hypnotized before, and it felt very similar to that. So the responses that I had, there would be like these big blackout periods, and then I would be responding. Blackout period, responding. Like the time for me, I think we did like 20 minutes each or something like that. Felt like 4 minutes to me. I mean, it was like no time had passed.
Well, I mean, those Estes sessions always feel short for the person.
This
who's doing
more than usual, because I usually remember the pieces in between. I don't remember anything in between. Like I said, at first I thought it was because I was falling asleep, but now I'm wondering if I had kind of fallen into some sort of trance,
like
or
a
state.
trance. Yeah. So that's kind of the intention of why I wanted to do it that way, to see if you could kind of put yourself to connect to that lower level.
Right.
So anyways, we did those. Excuse me. I don't think we had anything spectacular that came of those, although we were both really tired at that point. And whenever we've done these in the past and we're both really tired, we don't tend to get as good of results as if we do them earlier in the evening.
Though we did have something electronically happen, whereas we were trying to record using night vision as well. And
the memory card in the night vision camera just is dead. Like the computer won't read it, the camera won't read it anymore.
So we have no idea if we picked up anything or not.
Right.
And so of course the conspiracy theorist in me is like, ooh, what did it not want us to see?
Well, and when we were recording the interview with Mr. Alan Greenfield, I had my Seek thermal camera set up for my phone.
Right.
Which, I did a little unboxing review of that on YouTube, if you want to check it out. But, I was recording towards us, looking towards the wall of the basement, and it was pretty consistent, the wall, like reporting heat and that sort of thing. It was about 74 degrees outside. At about the 90-minute mark into our interview, a cold spot appeared in the corner, and the room that we record everything in is also the room that tends to where we hear the most activity. So it's almost like, did something show up? And then later when we did the Estes sessions, my cat was down here going crazy, and you said something like, are you playing with the cat?
Oh, yeah.
And my response was, yes, sir.
I went during your Estes session. Yeah, because Kitty Whiskers was going crazy. Like obvious, and he's kind of a chill kind of dude when people are around, but like he was going ham, dude, like playing with something.
Yeah. Well, and he does that a lot. Like I'll come down here to ride the exercise bike, and he'll just be running around everywhere down here and talking like he just meow. There's something down here that he's playing with.
Yeah, I don't know. Crazy. So not like a crazy week by any means, but still interesting.
The only thing other than that I had was unify.org did a thing where they were for like 10 days they had a bunch of different sessions to try to heighten your awareness that was going to culminate in a mass UFO sighting on 7/14 at 3:33 a.m., whatever your time zone was. So like I'm Eastern time, so it would have been 3:33 Eastern. If you were Pacific, it would have been 3:33 Pacific. So I got up at 3:25 or something like that.
I did not. I was back in the office. I was too tired.
Well, so it ended up, I didn't sleep well that night anyway. I didn't go to bed almost 1 o'clock, and then I went ahead and got up at that time and went out there. And, I mean, it was a great night. It would have been a great night to see something. I mean, it was just like there wasn't a cloud in the sky. I could see so many stars. And I stood out there for about 10 minutes and looked around and kept pivoting around and looking at the sky, and I never saw anything.
I mean, I was a little bit skeptical about the 3:33 your time zone, but then I thought, oh, well, 3 is a powerful number, first of all. Secondly, it makes sure that every time zone is dark.
Yeah.
You know, so if this convergence that was happening, that we were reaching out to this entity, these UTs or ETs that were out there, they would know to go to the next time zone, go to the next time zone,
right.
Or you know, whatever.
Now, the only thing that I had happened during that time is while I was standing outside. This was at about, I remember looking at my watch. It was about 3:36. I heard a loud, almost like a jet engine.
Fireworks.
No, I mean it was like a jet engine, like a roar jet engine. But there was no plane in the sky.
Maybe it was cloaked.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, and that's what I was like when I heard it. I was like a mothership's going to fly over right now or something. I was like, please, that'd be so awesome. But no, I mean, like I said, I didn't see anything in the sky, but that was the noise that I heard. And for those who don't know, I mean, I'm out like in the country, about a mile.
His address is no,
about a mile from the river, from Ohio River. And I mean, there's just not a lot that comes out here. And I mean, an airplane flying over in the night sky, I would have seen. Not only that, but they usually don't fly low enough to hear that much of a roar from the engine.
And you have a large viewing area of the sky compared to where I live out in the city. Now, have you followed up to see if anybody saw anything? Has anybody responded?
I haven't been out. So they, if you want to check it out, though, they have a Facebook page. It's Unify. Or you can go to unify.org. I'm sure the people are reporting things there if they saw them. I have not had an opportunity to go and investigate to see if anybody reported anything.
All right. Well, I'll be checking that out. But yeah, so anything else for Creepy Catch Up?
Nope. Other than that was about it.
All right. Well, let's get into the exciting part 2, wrapping things up with our incredible friend, Alan Greenfield. Again, Alan, if you're listening, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And check out part 2. This is where things go cray. Just kidding. The whole thing's cray.
Hey everyone, Josh here. Do you feel like mainstream options for things such as yoga, meditation, or documentaries and films meant to expand your mind are lacking? Have you heard of Gaia? Gaia is the largest resource of consciousness-expanding videos. Both Stefan and I have watched several of the series, documentaries, and films available on topics such as the secret space program, channeling interdimensional beings, and alien encounters. We're just now exploring the over 8,000 films, shows, and classes available to stream on your favorite devices. To get your 10-day free trial of Gaia, go to fearscapepodcast.com/Gaia offer. Again, that's fearscapepodcast.com/GAIA offer.
The distances are enormous. And it's not like that wasn't true in 1947. It's even true now. But people immediately went to, it's either natural phenomena, hoaxes, or spaceships from outer space. And I don't get it. Why was that what people leave?
Yeah.
I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah, well, I had an experience when I was a tiny little, maybe 4-year-old. My folks loved to go to Miami in July. And every July we'd get into Lincoln and my father would put the pedal to the metal and this was on US 1. There were no interstates back in the day. So from the age of 2 on, I spent a month in Miami every year. And how should I put it? Also stopped off in St. Augustine. That was my first experience with the Ripley skulls and other acceptable memorabilia for
stuff that wasn't rated X.
Pagan. I think that's what the deal there is. Oh, they were so glad to sell me at Gardner's Charter. It's like that they had in the display room of the gift shop for $600. And that's what led me to find the whole Gardner collection. I thought, oh, well, are they serious? Are they selling this? Wow. Okay. I'll put it over my bed, say I'm king of the witches, and I'll get laid a lot.
The people in my coven would lose their shit here. And they probably know, but geez.
And then I made the terrible mistake of donating it to the OTO. And it hung in the living room of an enemy of mine for a long time, getting it's watercolor, so it's bleached. And I don't know what happened to that afterwards. Probably it's in Breeze's attic with the rest of the OTO library, which always seems to be in his home, mysteriously. But where was I going? I was
You were 4 years old. You were telling us about an encounter that you
probably
had.
Younger than that, actually. But
driving to Miami.
Well, I was on the beach. And I didn't know how to swim yet. That was a year or two before apparently my parents saw a kid drown in a water hole across the state line in South Carolina. And they made sure I knew how to swim. Neither of my parents did. So I was wading in the Atlantic. And there were a lot of other people waiting in the Atlantic, just like there are right now. I'm not, and they are, and farewell. And I saw in the sky a contrail, not a chemtrail. There are no chemtrails, I'm sorry.
Amen.
So contrail, and that's what I thought it was. I mean, I don't know if I knew the word contrail at 3,
right?
But I knew it was a plane with exhaust coming out of it. And I hear another child further down the beach saying, I'll never forget this. It's, an embed from that early period in my life. There goes a soul ascending into heaven. And I thought, years later, this is as close to an explanation for why extraterrestrial was an immediate thought. It was either going to be perceived as a religious phenomenon, and some people have, put it into a quasi-religious context, or it's extraterrestrial because there wasn't any room for Hugh Everett had not even come up with the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics until 10 years after that, I think, roughly. It was a very controversial theory until the last 10 years, I think. And now it's one of the 4 or 5 orthodox ideas about what makes the omniverse tick. The term ultra-terrestrial, I will give credit where credit is due. That's Keel's term, and I adopted. We had a long correspondence, which I lost when I was escaping from my first wife, which is a long story in and of itself. But I had this folder of letters from Keel, and he started using the term ultra-terrestrial, and I bought into it because I was already over the ETH, but convinced that something unconventional was going on, and it seemed like an appropriate term, so I stand by it.
Yeah, when we first came across it, I don't know. For me, it filled in a lot of gaps about thoughts that I've had throughout my entire life. I mean, I've been on a crazy paranormal occult journey since I was little. And so, it definitely filled in some gaps, and it has opened some doors big time.
Well, and it's really, I think, interesting. Well, I don't know. It's almost a little arrogant, I think, from a human race perspective, to assume that we're the only intelligent life that may be on Earth, or at least connected to this planet. And so, I mean, we know that like dolphins are intellectual and likely, likely have some sort of a wake. I don't know what the right word to say is, but they're intelligent life. Let's say aware, I think is the right word. But like, what can there not be another civilization in the history of our planet? It's millions of years old, yet we've only, we've spawned in the last 50,000 years or whatever, and somehow there was no other life before us that was intellectual. So I think it's a little arrogant on our parts to assume that.
Oh no, I don't. I mean, in fact, I run stuff on civilizations all the time, and I always ask myself the musical question: would there be any remnant of that? Which it turns out is kind of a fad now in certain scientific circles. There's even a term for it, which I don't recall at the moment, but Solarian, is that the term? Something.
Oh, the reptiles?
No, it's just the notion. Well, that's.
I was like, because Doctor Who, that's what Doctor Who they call the Solarians.
Yeah, and I think that the term has migrated into certain scientific circles where they're trying to imagine if there was an advanced civilization before the evolution of mammals into us. What would it have been? One of the things is that there was a dinosaur, small dinosaur. The big ones were doomed anyway, I think. That was nature's little mistake, and it was. But if the asteroid had not hit the Earth and they had continued to evolve, mammals probably would have remained in their burrows as small creatures trying to not get eaten. And maybe they would have evolved into intelligent beings. They had hands and they stood upright, but there are other possibilities as well, including that there was a human civilization before the last ice age.
Yeah,
just completely disappeared. And the question is, would there be any remnant of it? And I tell you, just in this, COVID has very few blessings associated with it. But notice what has happened in the cities during the period of extreme shutdown. The air has cleared, sky, animals have wandered into cities like San Francisco and LA and places that you don't normally see wild animals. Deer and all sorts of creatures, great and small. And that's just in a couple of months of relatively little human external activity. So what about, let's say, God forbid, we disappear day after tomorrow? What will happen 100, 1,000, 10,000 years from now? How much of our stuff will still be available for future intelligent creatures to dig up and say that's intelligent? Maybe nothing, or maybe next to nothing. And you keep finding anomalous things like a screw in the middle of a piece of coal.
Yeah.
Coal is millions of years in the formation. If in the middle of a piece of coal there is a screw, it's a rusty screw, I'll grant you, but it's a screw. And there are any number of objects like that, and that's all you would really expect to see. Also, the notion that a truly advanced civilization will build big monuments to itself, that's absurd. I mean,
yeah, we expect them to act as we did.
Yeah, I don't think building huge pyramids was the pinnacle of Egyptian civilization. It was probably before. People wonder, well, that was the period where where they were trying for immortality in one form or another, and that probably was late in their civilization. Ramesses II, famously very late in Egyptian history, built gazillions of statues of himself. First of all, he lived to be 90 something or whatever, and had an ego to match his longevity, which that's like 180 by today's standards. I mean, they had, very little in the way of medicine, hecka to the contrary. But that's not a sign of high civilization.
Yeah.
We are going through what do they call it? An iconoclastic period with the Confederacy right now. I have mixed feelings about that because some things are art, and I don't believe art should be destroyed, but I get the point. And that happens. That happens. And so, the famous pulling down of Saddam Hussein's statue while he was hiding away. We equate civilization with our big buildings. And who's to say that maybe a civilization could have evolved that did not go for the kind of technology that we have, that in fact they decided we need to use the undressed stone, because then we won't be interfering with nature. That was the ethos of the Native American cultures. And I don't think that they were primitive. I think that they went in a different direction. And people do, actually. That's the...
Well, yeah. And, who's to say they used the metal and the things that we use now? Why not? Could they not have formed biodegradable homes or biodegradable machines or anything, or just biochemist or any of that regards? We assume that if there was something, it would have had to have been exactly as we are, much like those that search for ETs expect them to be humanoid.
Well, because God created us in his image. But anyways, and also, of course, I just want to make sure that I point out, just for our listeners who may not know, the pyramid was built to store grain. So.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about. But I live in a HUD rent-controlled building, so I have to say there's some credibility to that theory. God.
But I think the whole idea, though, that are you familiar with Daryl Anka and the channeling of Bashar?
Absolutely.
At all? Okay.
So we just came across
came across it on Gaia, and so there's this gentleman named Daryl Anka who claims to channel, and I guess if you were to break it into terminology, it would be a humanoid from a parallel Earth, that their time is different than ours, so they're far advanced from our semblance of humanity, and they bred themselves almost into extinction, left their parallel universe to come to others to try to reintegrate human DNA back into their species so that they could not die off. And so they've been to lots of humanities throughout all the different multiverses to try to reclaim their humanity, if you will. And so this Daryl Anka guy channels this entity called Bashar. And one of the things he talks about is that at one point in time, they ruined their planet on the surface. And so they had to move underground. They did all kinds of mutations and everything to try to extend their life and for living underground. And that's actually in his channeling is the origins of the Greys, if you will, is that they are actually from a different dimensional representation of the Earth, but now they've come to other Earths to try to spread their misfortune, if you will, as a deterrent from us to pursue the same path.
Which to me, that whole underground idea is how they evolved, was underground, and their skin darkened and their eyes got big. Sounded so much to me like the Morlocks from the Time Machine. But
yeah, I was going to say this would be a good script for my son to write, each generation of trance channelers has in some way reflected the period of time that we were going through at the time. In the 1940s, BSRF and Mark Probert was a principal channeler, and he was channeling the ether ships, which remarkably resembled UFOs before the term flying saucer even came into being, as early as 1945, 46 in there. Later, there was earlier than that, there was the trance channeling, which is associated with mediumship, which supposedly was communication with the dead. And more recently, there is the raw material. I happen to know the people that did that. They're complete. Well, most of them have passed on, but they were completely on the level and could teach anybody to channel. That was one of their things. But the big thing for me is they never made any claims about the material. They said, read it, judge it for whatever it's worth, but we don't make claims because it's channeling, and channeling is a mystery in and of itself. And I thought,
indeed.
I think they were in your turf there, now that I think about the LL Lightlines research in
I believe you're right.
In Kentucky,
in Kentucky, yeah.
Friend Carla, who has passed on just in recent years, she was a remarkable channel, and her principal channeler, the one who channeled the raw material, which is extensive, was Elkins, who by day was an Eastern Airlines pilot, and by night was a trance channeler. So make of that what you will. But they did their thing in my living room, okay? You know, did the channeling thing, and I could detect any sort of pretense, or they didn't use really strange voices from beyond the void, or any of that kind of stuff. But it was interesting material, and what to make of it, I don't know. But that story, if I had heard it 20 years ago, I would have said, wow, that's really remarkable. But now there's so much material on alternate universes and movies that deal with that, and then even comic books, graphic story books that deal with the same stuff. I'm not saying that this guy is faking, because I would have to investigate before I could say one thing or another. But certainly the influences of society impact what you get. I think there is, with all of this stuff where there is nothing material, there's a signal to noise ratio. And you get a lot more noise than signal. Now, the noise may be significant too, because that's the sound of the Big Bang. And every time I say Big Bang, your screen freezes. That's incredible. The powers I have.
That's the power of Spider Rainbow, man.
Shut up. Never have said.
Oh, I just want my artist buddy to draw you as a superhero.
Yeah, okay, go for it. And
no, I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're not poking fun.
I used to be thin. I used to not live in a HUD subsidized building too. Okay, ask something else. I think I've covered that. So
I guess kind of sticking with the UT conversation, something else that we've seen pop up a lot, and there's actually references to it in the Secret Cipher book, is the whole Sumerian, Inky, and
Enlil,
Anunnaki, and all that kind of stuff. And I think you mentioned it as the Dogons.
But basically
the gods that came that were like fish people and all that kind of stuff, but just the relationship between a lot of that stuff and potentially the UTs that
right, like we talked about, like the clawed beast sounds everything like one of the Dogons.
Right.
And I think that there's no reason to think that there can't be aquatic, not like dolphins, because dolphins, first of all, there's a disadvantage, evolutionary disadvantage of being underwater. You can't make fire. And there's another one when you don't have something like opposable thumbs. So I think they're very intelligent, but I also don't think that they have the material to evolve anything other than a spoken language, which I understand they have even dialects, different. They've put porpoises together in SeaWorld and other places, which has driven some of the Greenpeace and PETA people crazy because they're from different pods. They speak different languages, so they aren't able to communicate. However, amphibious creatures, which is what we're talking about with the Ioannis and the Dogon and Nomo, which shows up in Crowley's Enochian adventures, in which I have duplicating those. I have found the same stuff, and so have a lot of other people. That's perfectly plausible that they spend time in the water and they spend time on the land. We know for a fact, or probable fact, that the great mammals in the ocean were once land animals. Hard to think of a whale as a land animal, but apparently they kept retreating further and further because of the safety of the shore, relatively speaking, and evolved back into relatively advanced creatures, relatively advanced mammals that were purely aquatic, but still breathed air. So.
Well, and there's that idea that, and Joseph Campbell talks a lot about that stuff too, is that idea that these stories do come from something, right? So what do they come from? Even the hero's journey and all of those things, there's something that's written within our DNA to tell that story over and over and over. And, do these tales of, say, like Atlanteans in the terms of like Aquaman or something like that, does that come from this idea that in our past, or we knew somehow genetically, do we remember things, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jung kind of took the middle path. On the one hand, he thought archetypes were implicit in our makeup and had something to do with the way we were psychologically built. But he also thought there was, some physical existence, and to the Ching, to UFOs, to all kinds of things, which he soft pedaled because he was, a regular scientist, and that's something. But Campbell carried it out further, and it seems to me that there may be something more Velikovskian than Campbell-esque involved here, that we are, in a sense, collectively amnesiac about some events in early historic or prehistoric times which were so traumatic, we have just wiped them from our conscious mind, but they persist at an unconscious level. That is a very legitimate theory. I just posted a thing today that I thought was in line with a theory that I have dismissed for years, that there is new information on from ultra-scientific circles. They would deny the connection altogether, but the whole Cleve Baxter Secret Life of Plants, Peter Tompkins thing, which got laughed at by orthodoxy, as Velikovsky did. Apparently, plants do communicate with one another through electrical connections under the ground, and they apparently have found broad scientific evidence for that. So I put the story right out of my news feed on my MeWe page to Facebook, and at the bottom of it I gave a link to The Secret Life of Plants by Tompkins, who I think was a very important thinker, and to Cleve Baxter, who passed away a few years ago. But I think, sometimes people who are highly criticized by the Orthodox establishment become Orthodox later on.
Yeah.
That is, by Orthodox, I mean accepted.
Yeah.
And, I think that the collective amnesia notion that Velikovsky put forward is perhaps the explanation for a lot of things that happened in primordial times.
Yep, it's something I'm coming around to a lot is that idea.
That could explain some of the phenomena we've been talking about too, from
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even even some of those ideas of the Sasquatch and some things like that, it's like you look at some of the Native American, I just was reading something that they had just found some hidden old site of Native Americans in the Northwest that had been undiscovered, and in there they found a number of statues dedicated to the Sasquatch and things like that. And it's like, even in that regards, how much of that was this collective amnesia, right? Who knows?
Well, it's accepted theory, whatever that worth, that there was, I think it was the Clovis culture. I may be mangling my terminology. I'm not an anthropologist, so.
Yeah, the Clovis is the one in Skinwalker, I believe, right?
Yeah, but the point about Clovis is it was destroyed by some natural disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the accepted theory. What the disaster was, I presume it was whatever created meteor crater, or what.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But whatever it was, it set back North American civilization, which was very considerable in pre-Columbian times. It only got to be not so much so, became roving bands of people, the way if someone from somewhere else had come into Europe during the darkest of the feudal period and judged European civilization based not on Greece and Rome, but on the local warlords, it would have been like that, because apparently things like Cahokia and just down the road from where I am, the Etowah Indian mounds and the mound culture all over America was very advanced. It was not particularly technological, but it was similar to the civilizations further south in Mesoamerica, going back to the Olmecs and maybe before. So we're talking about very, very early. What happened apparently was a combination of drought, which happens periodically, and pigs. The Spanish imported pigs into America the way the Philistines did into the Middle East, which accounts for why Jews don't eat pigs. What happened was a certain number of pigs got loose, and pigs are barnyard boars, basically.
Yeah.
And they reverted, and they went north, and the agriculture was based on maize, on corn, and these pigs were fruitful and multiplied and ate the corn. And the whole mound culture, which just prior to the landings in North America that are accepted from Plymouth Rock and so forth, they were gone. They had been destroyed by pigs. And the combination of drought in the Southwest and pigs all over the Mississippi Valley, and it was called the Mississippian culture, in fact, and seem to even have connections to the Aztecs and the Mayans and so.
Right, we were just seeing something about that. But yeah, it's fascinating. I saw a documentary on pigs and how they revert so quickly. If a domesticated pig gets loose within I think they said like a week or two, they'll revert fully back to boars, grow hair, grow teeth, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, they're only barely domesticated.
Yeah,
so they I don't, you can blame the conquistadors for that, or you can just say that and the diseases they brought from filthy Europe were not something that they even knew that they, had. It wasn't like germ warfare, but it had the same effect as germ warfare. It wiped out whole civilizations. So by the time the pious pilgrims got here, what they found were wandering bands of Creek and Cherokee. By the way, the Creek apparently got a ruling from the Supreme Court that they own Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's like 50% of Oklahoma. I saw that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cause,
see what happens with that.
well, they used to call that the Indian Nation. That was there's a Woody Guthrie song that starts way down yonder in the Indian Nation, riding my pony on the reservation. That was the name of the thing above the Texas Panhandle, and they just took it away because they were.
That's what they do. Yeah, it's because that's what we do.
Well, apparently the court. I mean, it can't go any higher than that.
No.
If they ruled, they're not going to take the land. They probably will take compensation for it. But very interesting. And the fact is that those peoples of the tribal groups that we know about, if they were asked about the mounds or the wall that was bulldozed down to make room for the Confederate statues on Stone Mountain, they say it was made by giants. Well, I don't know what the translation is doing, but probably they didn't know who made them. I used to think maybe they ate them, but
yeah.
I don't
know.
Pigs, Oh well, they were delicious. What do you think?
Yeah,
mounds. We don't have them anymore. They were delicious, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even pre the Spaniards, I mean, many civilizations disappeared, and then it's like I found fascinating the cities that used to exist even in the United States area before anyone came over. These huge wooden cities that just existed that there is no evidence of anymore. Yet, we feel, what as scientists say, there always has to be evidence, right? It's like we just have pictures or whatever that show, but those cities are gone. They're gone completely. These giant, huge epicenters for Native Americans where they traded and lived and worked and all of that, gone, just gone. And, and they don't have a history of that people's either. It's
mounds
crazy.
That we have here that are about 30 miles north of Atlanta in Cartersville, Georgia, which, by the way, is a great place to see UFOs, but if you are so inclined. They've never been excavated. One of the mounds, one of the smaller mounds, there's 3 mounds there, has been excavated, and they found some beautiful statuary that is very advanced. If the people that lived there made them and didn't just trade for them, they were quite sophisticated artistically. They were as good as anything that you will see in the terms of statuary from Mesoamerica. So they were not the kind of civilization that we have in the big cities, but they were clearly civilizations, and they may not have been the first. In fact, there are reports of people that went up the rather virgin, from the European standpoint, Amazon, that showed people, early missionaries, whatever, that were just basically looking along the shore and reporting cities all through the Amazon jungle. And there's nothing left of them, but then the jungle probably ate them,
Yeah. Couldn't say it any better.
Yep. I mean, that's just the way it is. I was talking about this, what would happen if we disappeared? What would happen to the construction site across the way here? If we disappeared tomorrow? Well, it would revert to what it was when I moved in. It would be a forest within a year or so. And
well, there's actually, I can't remember what network it's on. It's either History or Discovery, but they did a show several years ago that talked about that same subject. What would happen if humans were just no longer here, and they tracked it out over time to show
the life after humans.
Yeah. So, but it's pretty interesting to see how quickly it goes back to just being wildlife.
Well, like I said, if you're seeing wild animals wandering the streets of San Francisco, large ones, bears, deer, smaller animals, whatever, and the air clearing up, and that's in a matter of weeks, it doesn't take too much. I always smile when I see grass growing up in a parking lot, because it's just sort of the tenacity of nature and the fragility of our pretense at being civilized. Don't know, but I suspect that if there was a pre-civilization civilization, it may have been worldwide, which would account for things like the Arrhenius Phineas map and the Perry Rice map and other things that seem to have a really good knowledge of the entire planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed up way too early, and probably were copies of copies of copies of copies.
Yeah.
That my suspicion is that when the Ottomans sacked Constantinople, the last of the great libraries of antiquity, which was more spread out than, say, Alexandria, the stuff from it got appropriated. If it was maps, the mariners would have gotten a hold of it. And of course, the Perry Rice was an admiral in the Ottoman Navy. So he could have requisitioned, do you have any maps? And that has survived for the 500 years since then, but probably was based on maps when Antarctica was ice-free, which we now know it was.
Yeah.
In fact, it was a hot jungle at one time with dinosaurs and all of that. Now, nobody in 1500 knew that. Nobody on Earth knew that. But there was the map. Somebody had it.
Right.
Might have been aliens from Mars. But it's likely it was a
Venusians.
Yes.
Or the Lanulosians.
The Lanulosians, yes. Some of my favorite aliens. My favorite are the Pewamians.
The Pewamians? Yeah. Are they on me, wee as well?
No, they're not yet, but I probably will do a thing on Ralph Lale and the Brown Mountain Lights, because he's just an old country. He was just an old country boy that had this little museum, the Outer Space Rock Shop Museum, and said he had this story that he spun and would sell his little booklet for $1. And he showed me around, he showed Jim Moseley around, he showed Gene Steinberg around. Tim Beckley was there. I mean, I made 2 trips there. And his story is right out of Germanic mythology. Now, how is a good old boy from the backwoods who purportedly was a moonshiner with little to no education, how was he coming up with a story focused on under Brown Mountain that's identical to the Tannhauser myth of the Middle Ages, including what did Tannhauser find under the Venusberg? He found the goddess Venus. And where did the aliens from Pewam take Ralph Lale? to the planet Venus.
Venus.
Yeah, much like Indra did with Woody.
Around naked, which is exactly the description that that you get from Tannhauser, which origin unknown, but certainly at least early medieval time.
Yeah. Well, there's even mentions of that in the Woody Derenberger book about the visitors from Lanulos, about them going to Venus and everybody running around naked. And so, speaking of Derenberger,
knew each other or what?
But speaking of Derenberger, something that we recently read, or Stefan did anyway, was the book from Tanya Derenberger. I don't know if
how I feel about it too.
But one of the things that I guess we pulled out of that, and also her interview on the Hellier season 2, was that Ingrid Cold was dead. What are your thoughts on that?
I think she knew someone who claimed to be Indrid Cold. The most interesting part of that interview, to me, was her account of her childhood, where Woody
in the book too,
where Woody Derenberger comes home from the experience, the original experience with Indrid Cold, pale and quiet, uncharacteristically so, and scared the bejesus out of his daughter. Well, the rest of the story, I mean, you can take it or leave it or just put a big question mark on it, but that's almost certainly the case. And in a weird sort of way, it validates Derenberger's original experience. A lot of people that I've talked to who have classical contactee, albeit the quieter ones, experiences, I think the original experience is real. The subsequent experiences are kind of post-hypnotic suggestions.
That's what we feel about it too.
Yeah.
John Reeves, who I got to know him very well. I visited maybe 6 times. There's a picture of my father playing golf in the flying saucer landing area, which Beckley published recently, which I thought showed my father's attitude towards these things. His hat is sitting on top of the Lincoln, and he's out in this area where the footprints were, and he's swinging the club. He was championship amateur golfer. But Reeves' first experience was this being gets out of this craft, or what he takes to be a craft, and it appears to take a picture of him. In other words, a flash. Shades of the Men in Black movies,
Yep, that's just what I was thinking.
I think all the other experiences where he goes to Alpha Centauri and Bejesus and Lanulus and other wonderful places in the universe, all of which are amenable to the cipher, the Ufonauts. I mean, I've run practically any that I get. That's the first thing that I run, because that's the first thing that I discovered that wasn't from the occult community. I learned it from the occult community, from Tim Coutet, who invented the lexicon program. And he said, try this on the barbarous names. And I did, but I don't know. It worked, but it just seemed like, one more mystery on top of other mysteries. So, but he said, you got to work with it. So I tried it on something that would never have occurred to him, which was some of the weird names, of which planetary names that don't exist, and a name like Indrid Cold is, Orthon, which has the same value as Jesus, and he looked like the Aryan version of Jesus.
Right, or Valiant Thor.
Yeah, Val Thor. Well, that might have been a government hoax.
I hear that, though I've been seeing some people trying to either insinuate that Valiant Thor was the head of the mothership of the Lanulosians, or was indeed Indrid Cold.
Yeah, well, those are the same people that follow Ashtar Command. Anyone who has a smattering of magical knowledge knows what Ashtar comes from. You don't need the cipher to get that one. We're talking about Ashtaroth, a demon from hell that claims to have come to America and turned into a good guy, even though he was a fallen angel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ancient demonic lore. But I wouldn't fool with that stuff. And people that do, they're going to hear whatever whatever they're told, because this is snake oil from outer space. And it's not the contactees that I don't believe, it's Ashtar and his denizens. That's stuff that, is the wrong side of the tree of life. And do that at your peril.
But yeah, I agree with you, the hypnotic state, which to me explains why he saw Venus the way that he did, when we now know what Venus actually is very uninhabitable and things like that, because that's what his brain needed to see, right? To fit.
To process. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Or if you want to take it one step back, perhaps this collective amnesia we're talking about, perhaps there's a post-hypnotic suggestion to remember, and we're remembering something that we're associating with Venus or Mars or Alpha Centauri or Lanulus or whatever, and that it's really a memory of ancient Sumer and maybe even before that, the early Indian civilizations, which the more they dig, the more they find. And fascinated with astronomy, because astronomy was everything to these people.
Well, and what is the possibility that the asteroid belt that's between Mars and Jupiter, a lot of people have theorized that there was another planet, another solid planet there, and that Venus was actually the moon, a moon of that planet. I believe the name that they give this potential planet was like Phaeton or something like that.
Phaeton.
But it just is curious to think that maybe Venus was once habitable, and when he was seeing these depictions, if you will, he was looking back in time.
Right, because there are some of those scientists or some of those astronomers that talked about that. They talked about figuring out mathematically when it would have happened, and then there are historical records that account for things in civilization seeing like that it kind of whizzed by Earth, and that's where some cataclysms may have happened or things like that as Venus was whizzing past as it got shot out of orbit.
Yeah, Velikovsky said that Venus emerged as a cometary body from Jupiter, and it wandered past the Earth, among other things, wreaking havoc in the ancient world and possibly explaining the collapse of the late Bronze Age civilization, which is usually attributed to the Sea Peoples and other nefarious activities. But that would explain the traumatic experience that people have blocked. It would explain the long gap, which Egyptologists don't like to talk about, but there's a long gap in Egyptian history about which we have nothing.
Right, yeah. The Sphinx alone.
Yeah. Well, that's even earlier.
Yeah.
The Sphinx probably precedes any of the familiar Nile-related structures that we know about. It seems to have been there long before, and maybe a lot longer before. And it's a pyramid in Mexico, the name of which I don't know, but it has a volcanic layer which is datable to about 7,000 years ago. Below that layer is a layer of, I don't know, we have no name for what they call Toltecs, because that was the Aztec word for people that, like Anasazi for the southwestern Pueblo. They didn't know they were. So they called them Anasazi, which means unknown. Toltec doesn't really mean anything. It's just what they called whoever built the, sophisticated pyramids. In this particular case, though, the eruption that caused the pervasive lava flow that completely encased a level of this pyramid, below that is a whole nother civilization. And that would take it back to at least to the last ice age, if not earlier than that. I mean, it's got to be 10,000 years or more old, and that has gotten no publicity at all. But it is in Tompkins' book about the pyramids of Mexico, which was kind of the coffee table follow-up to the one he did about the Egyptian pyramids. So, magic in Mexico, as I said in Bell Book and Candle.
I love Bell Book and Candle. That's one of my favorite movies.
Do I?
I love that movie so much.
I whack it.
Yep, that my one of my very close friends. She named her cat. She got a Siamese cat and named it Pyewacket. So.
Can she cry?
No, she can't. Only Jack Lemmon can make her cry.
So one of my,
but yeah, that whole Toltec. I mean, that automatically makes me think of Carlos Castaneda, of course, his dealings with Don Juan.
Started to do the Mount Arabia stuff. What we started out to do was the vision quest that Castaneda describes, and I got my advanced education at the University of Arizona, which is in the Sonora Desert, which I wouldn't want to be at right now because they're having
I know.
First heat wave in history.
I know. I'm actually moving out to Phoenix in October, so
Phoenix is hotter.
Oh, I know.
I don't get why that is. It has something to do with topography, but topology or whatever the ology is there. But the point is, Tucson is further south, but it's about 10 degrees cooler than Phoenix. And if you go north of Phoenix, you actually get up into what amounts to the Canadian zone around Flagstaff. It's a fascinating area because it's so extreme. But and that, by the way, you will pass where the Anasazi once lived in Chaco Canyon. So.
Yep, I've been to Chaco Canyon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have family that lives out in Phoenix, and then I used to live out in New Mexico as well, so I spent a lot of time out in the Southwest.
Well, I have a good friend from the old days of ufology in, what is the name of that border town below Tucson? Anyway, his name is Ed Biebel, and if you can touch base with him, because I speak from experience, it ain't that far from Phoenix to Tucson. It's
No. Last time I was there, we went down to Tombstone, so we went right through Tucson.
Yeah. So. He lives in Nogales, but that's virtually a suburb of Tucson. And he's got ufology stories dating back to the 60s because
I will connect with him very quickly. I'm very excited about the people that I meet out there for the show. So.
Yep. You're probably going to be well rewarded because that is a fertile area. And
yes, it is.
Back in my graduate and postgraduate days, the University of Arizona was kind of an extension of Southern California in the early 1970s, 1980s. And it was a totally different, it was just that countercultural backwater that didn't get monitored nearly as much as Northern California. So we had some interesting experiences there. That's where I saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That was a credit class. Okay. And Baba Ram Das was one of our lecturers, and it was just I got a very countercultural education, which is why I'm living in a HUD
Yeah, but your stories are epic.
They got my degrees in comparative religion, which that and $1.75 will get you on the bus to downtown Atlanta.
I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater.
Oh, okay. It's like a good idea at the time.
It sure the hell did.
I'm going to be wise, but poor.
Yeah.
Never occurred to me. It was just not the times, But
no.
Fine arts. Yep.
So I was going to ask you, since the cipher that's documented in the book was cracked in 1974 or whatever, I think that was the right.
Yeah,
I'm getting
in the right area.
Okay. Do you think there's a new cipher?
No, I don't. But I'll tell you what I anticipated back then. Okay, I should mention this. Illuminate Press, which disappeared under very suspect circumstances, gave me my first break as an author with the original edition of Secret Cipher, the UFOnauts. I had written for 20 years at that point, but I'd never, except a little self-published thing called Saucers and Sorcerers, which sold for $1 and was about ufologists, not about the subject of ufology. Ron Bonds, the publisher of Illuminate Press, which had started out as a BBS, if you even know what that was, it's called Illuminate, read what I had written in terms of an autobiography, and he said, "I can't publish this, you're not famous." But the part about UFOs, if you turn that into a book, I think that would make a good book. And that was the basis of Secret Cipher and Secret Rituals, both of which he bought. But then came the censorship that I got from the OTO, specifically from Bill Breeze. And I bought the second book back and didn't publish it for 10 years. I was still in the OTO, but at that point, I didn't give a damn. I was long since disillusioned and staying on just in case they, wanted to listen to something that I had to say. And when they didn't, I published in public what I had to say. And then they solemnly said, "We fire you." And I said, "You can't fire me. I quit a year ago." He said, "No, you didn't. You left us hanging." I said, "No, look in your mail, Dave. Look in your mail." I said, "I cannot serve this group of people anymore, so I'm resigning from all these positions. If you want me to stay on since there were no other initiators in the Southeast at that time," I said, "I'll stay on as initiator as long as you need me, but that's it. The other things that I'm doing, I cannot continue to do. The initiations I believe in, the order I believe not in." And he had to take that back, which made me feel really good. But twice, when I was getting ready to publish the second book, which are now under one cover, that's why, Complete Secret Cipher, I went up to visit Breeze back in the day when we were friendly, and he jumped down my throat. He said, "You wrote this UFO book. We can't have you writing UFO books. The occult is respectable and UFOs are not." And I went, "No." And then I got him to drive me back to Atlanta because I wanted him to perform an initiation with somebody that had been neglected. And as we're passing at night to Little Gorge, which I mentioned earlier, narrow road, he's playing a demo tape that he did with the late Psychic TV. May it rest in peace. and telling me once again about how respectable the occult is and how disrespectful UFOs are. And he said the magic words, "You've lost a Grand Lodge job because of this." And I said, "Well, there's a sequel." And he about pissed himself, you know. So I call it, you know, the Illuminati censored the second book and took 10 years to get in print. And by that, Illuminat had disappeared because several of its authors died under mysterious circumstances early, young, relatively young. And ultimately, the publisher died under very mysterious circumstances, Ron Boggs.
Seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, well, he was having dinner at a local restaurant, which had a lot of people in it, with his wife. And he developed what was, probably if you dig up his, I almost said corpse. If you dig up his death certificate, probably, I'm not reverent about these things. You would probably find that it says food poisoning. I've talked to experts in that area. Nobody else in the restaurant got sick. His wife was eating the same thing as him. She didn't get sick. He was dead by morning. Dinner, got sick, went to the hospital and died within hours. That doesn't to me like food poisoning. And that sounds to me
it's poison.
Yeah, it's poisoned. I just, you know, I thought about that Russian expat in England that was in the polonium, you know, but polonium is slower, I think, deliberately. This was arsenic or cyanide or, you know, something.
Yeah.
Once it got into his system, he was gone. And with him, Illuminat Press ceased to be. And Illuminat was the only press that I know of that was publishing stuff on conspiracy theories and stuff on UFOs. Reputable stuff. Jim Keith, who also died mysteriously, wrote on both subjects for them. I only wrote on UFOs, so they didn't do me so far.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely see a connection to so much of that together. Just the occult and that regards and UFO stuff. It's all just, I see so many strands that connect them all together. It's crazy to think that that's a new idea, really.
Yeah, these are personal to me because these are people that I knew. Mm-hmm. You know, it's different if you're reading about, you know, somebody. I mean, it's not like it's something that I was in D.C. when George Adamski died in D.C., but I wasn't present at his talk. He collapsed at a talk and dropped dead. And I would have probably clapped, you know, ding dong, the witch is dead. But probably the other people there would have pummeled me for that because they were true believers. You know, he's buried at Arlington. That's one of the...
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know.
Did he serve in the military?
World War I. And back when, if you had served anywhere, you could still be planted in Arlington. It's much rarer now. But...
Yeah. It's probably because we're running out of space.
Yeah, that is the reason.
Yeah.
It was built deliberately facing the Robert E. Lee Custis Mansion. The point being, you know, as it filled up, that it would clutter up the view from the Lee Custis Mansion, which was right across the border in Virginia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of those vicious little things that probably didn't come from Lincoln. That sounds more like Grant.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have much more to
ask or talk about?
No, you've answered every single question I've had, and I've just enjoyed thoroughly shooting the shit with you. Really, at the end of the day,
I thought we were exploring the nature of reality and all of the things that really make the human race great. But if you think that we were shooting the shit,
anybody that can have fun talking about this stuff too and still take it seriously, my kind of guy. So I appreciate you so much, Alan.
There's so many people that don't. I think that, I always do, and some people don't react real well to it. But I could tell you guys,
oh yeah,
we're not laughing at me. You were laughing with me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the whole point of our show. We love having fun while taking a look at good things that we're interested in. And you can still make fun of the stuff you're interested in.
Because at the end of the day, I find myself all the time questioning, am I really insane? Or is this like,
Oh, you're not. And none of us are, not even the nuts and bolts people. The stimulus is there. The notion that we have a pat answer for it is where I part company with the overly serious. The occult is much more serious.
Right.
I don't know where he got that. He's too much acid in the 60s, I think.
A want to belong to something respectable, probably.
Yes. Yes. He spent 7 years in college, I believe, and never graduated. So he really prizes people that have degrees. So he said, "You have degrees, don't you?" I said, well, yeah, Universal Life Church sends me $5 coupons. And I wanted to disabuse that guy. And damn if that didn't show up on some list or other. So I said, well, I must have spent all that money at the University of Arizona, my father's money. I could have just sent $5 to the Reverend Hensley, who was illiterate, by the way. Anyway, this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Thank you so much for just reaching out to us. I mean, that was, like I said, it was great because I just finished the first book, right? And so I was like, this is perfect.
I haven't even seen the Complete Secret Cipher, the UFOnauts. Is there an introduction or anything that's not in the 2 books?
We have them both back to back, so.
Yeah, so let me see here.
I mean, you've got your Olaf Phillips intro, but no, it kind of jumps right in, and there's no delineation between the 2 books, though we know where it ended because we have the original copy. So, after reading, I definitely do feel they work very well together as one. I mean, it works very well.
They were written to be one book, and I originally had thought to write a trilogy, but I think the subject is covered, and I don't think I ever answered that question about, has the cipher changed? No, because for so long people read the book. I mean, it's the original edition sold out, Yeah. Then the press was no longer there, so that it became a collector's item, and predictably on Amazon, the price went. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No royalties from retail.
Yeah.
So it's
I picked this one up on eBay for not too much. So. And then but 5 or 10 years ago, that was selling for over $100.
Yeah.
Which my book on the rights of Memphis and Mitzrayim, it was out of print for about 5 years and then got back in print from another publisher. And while it was out of print, it went to $350 on almost sites.
Yeah.
It's used, so.
Yeah, it's crazy how that happens. This is going to sound really nerdy, but there's an old Ghostbusters novel that came out the mid 90s or something like that, but it didn't do anything. And so it had a very low press. Try to find that little paperback now. It's like $500.
That's what I was.
Of a Ghostbusters story.
Well, I was looking earlier today for a copy of Libra 31, and the only copies that I could find on anywhere, like eBay or Amazon or any of that stuff,
that wasn't digital.
That wasn't digital. Was going for over $500. So.
Oh, my version with the footnotes, because my notes are great, if I do say so myself.
No, it was. Well, I don't know. I didn't look in depth into what the copy was, but I just saw the price. Was like, nope, not going to do that one. So I found a PDF. So
yeah, well, I mean, if I did the only authorized edition of Libra 31, authorized by Akkad's estate, was mine, and I really whiz of a job doing the footnotes, if I do say so myself. That's my OTO period, and I get into the weeds real deep. So
we've all been there, okay?
Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa.
Do you know how long I was like, Gerald Gardner is a saint? Now I'm like, he was on a lot of drugs. So I know what you mean.
Was dying. He supposedly said, according to Doreen Valente, I think it was, that I mean, I knew her, but obviously I didn't know Gardner. I was 12 when he died. Something, and halfway around the world. You can't pin the Kennedy assassination on me, because I was in Israel in a kibbutz. Honestly, that's what I was doing. As I didn't even hear about Kennedy for 3 days. So anyway, we'll let it rest there.
Oh man, Alan, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much. We'd love to stay in touch and stay friends, and maybe have you back on someday, because we are not stopping our search.
I'll leave. That's the graceful thing to do. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. You were fantastic, man. Yeah. Just an absolute pleasure. And
anyway, so
I'll be looking for you in your dresses again, so don't worry about it. I'll see you.
Right. Woo! Hi.
Wow, man. It's so much fun. And I hate to pull from the very beginning of the episode, but I love how it starts where it ended. Of course, that's beautiful editing on my part. But it's that idea where he started to talk about, why is it that when the ship crashed in Roswell was our immediate thought extraterrestrials. Yeah. And I never thought about that before. And if you think about it, why was it? Because especially there wasn't a whole lot of UFO sightings or anything like that. There was definitely some fiction.
I mean, is that... I'm trying to remember if that's post War of the Worlds, right?
Oh, yeah. War of the Worlds was in the 1800s is when that came out.
But I mean, the radio show.
That was in the 30s.
Okay.
So, yes, it's post that. I mean, way post that. So, if you think if that stuff was going to happen... Why not? But yeah, it's just he's really good about planting a little nugget in your head, of doubt, to make you go, I never thought about it that way. Because we've grown up with it. We've always just known about Roswell, and it's always been alien-centric, because why would it have been anything else? But thinking about it from the lens of the 1940s, coming out of World War II, why is it that the everyday average people were like...
E.T.
you know, or same thing if we look at the Battle of Los Angeles, right? It's like these different things that were all happening, around that time.
Well, and it also it's making me think now whether or not at the time of Roswell, if it was actually said as E.T. or alien, or if it was said as something else, and then later changed. Kind of like moth.
Well, from my research into Roswell, because I used to live out in New Mexico and all that stuff, is originally even the United States government was saying flying saucer, and then they retracted their statement, and then all of a sudden said that it was a weather balloon. So originally it came out and was reported as a flying saucer, and then and in fact this was backed up by the Air Force, and then when the Air Force took all the stuff and moved it to Dayton, they retracted everything and called it a weather balloon. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you what, something I'm very excited for us to cover someday, something I'm coming across a lot, which is around this time, is when the UFOs were above the White House.
Oh, yeah.
Because, that's what ufologists really want, at the end of the day, especially sci-fi nuts. We're like, we need, the UFOs to show up over Moscow or show up over the White House. But really, I mean, why would you do that? That's where you're going to get attacked. You could go to Burkesville, Kentucky,
right?
Instead.
Exactly.
But I do very much. I would love to, cover that one day. The UFOs over the White House, because it was something I'd never heard before. So
I'm trying to think of where the first time I did hear that. It was recently. I think it might have been watching that Deep Space program on Gaia.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Number of the books that I have and things like that, it shows up there as
it's all starting to run together.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. But again, I just want to give a very heartfelt thank you to Alan Greenfield. If you have not purchased his book, get your ass on Amazon.com and purchase the Complete Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts. It's totally worth it. It's a great book. It's come out through Paranora Publishing. Is that correct?
That's right.
Also, check out Hellier, especially his episode. He's on there, so you can dig a little deep into his connection to everything that happened with Hellier. And I hope you guys liked us making fun of balloons as much as we did. But yeah, get on there, check all that stuff out. He does have one or two other books. And remember, you heard him say The History of Witchcraft is not his book, which, by the way, I've been collecting PDF books, and that is in that that big download I got is Alan Greenfield's History of Witchcraft. It's in there. But yeah, make sure to check out all of his Webley goodness, thesecretcipher.com. Check out all that stuff. But Alan, we love you. Thank you. We cannot wait to talk to you again and all that. And I guess, do you have a thank you to him as well?
Well, I was just going to say,
have you said happy birthday yet?
No, I mean, I didn't.
It's not his birthday, though.
I didn't get my $12 check from my grandmother either. No, I was just going to say, Alan, you touched me.
He touched me.
You touched me in a very...
Show me on this alien where Alan Greenfield hurt you.
Not to make light of people who, but anyways, yeah. No, Alan, it was a great show. Thanks again for reaching out. It really means a lot to us to A, know that you listen to the show, and B, that you like the show well enough that you reached out to tell us. So that means a lot.
Yeah, and sharing your theories with us and answering the hell out of our questions, because we grilled you. Yeah. We grilled you big time. Everybody was like, get him to say he's Terry Wrist.
Yeah.
But no, we weren't doing that. Kinda. But anyways, again, thank you, Alan. I want to, before we get out of here, I want, of course, move into our listener story, because we love all sorts of stories. Obviously, we're into some shit, okay? We're into some weird stuff. We love it. We love your listener stories. This listener story this week comes from California, a listener out in California. Her name is Sandra, and she has a really, really interesting story that's kind of creepy and weird, as they usually are. This story is being portrayed by a really good friend of mine. Her name is Kirsten Kellersberger. She is an improviser and actor. She also went to WKU like I did, and she's portraying this for us. She is portraying Sandra. So let's take a listen to Sandra's story from California.
My name is Sandra. I live in Bakersfield, California. When I was about
So you know what really struck me about that story is the weight, feeling like the weight pressing down.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've talked about it before. If a lot of these times, if people are starting to astral project, because that's, you know, I am on my astral projection journey, if you will. I'm at the point where, like, I feel that. I feel my body get heavy.
Right.
I can't move. Like, I feel myself come out of my body. But then after that, the explanation of, like, the red eyes and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it still could be a byproduct of astral projection.
Or abduction.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm really buying into it. It's scary because as someone who gets night hags a lot...
you even had one like that, right?
Yeah.
Where you woke up and it was over your entire body?
Oh, yeah. I could feel it breathing.
Yeah.
The hotness of the breath. That one that scared me the most is when my wife started to wake up and it just waved its hand over her face and she went back to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, that frightened me more than anything. But the cut... That's the thing, you know, and if it was astral, if, you know, there's that sensation of falling. Yeah. We've talked about this before. Maybe she hit the side of the bed. If it's a bed spring, maybe there's a spring that was sticking out. Sure, any of those things, which could also tie into the abduction as well. Why do we assume that it is our full corporeal body that gets abducted?
Right.
Why could not this technology simply take our essence with it, our astral body, and is able to maybe give it solidity on the ship, right?
Well, and it makes you wonder. So those who intentionally astral project are strong-willed, right? Mm-hmm. They have the will to astral project. Those who accidentally doing it may not, and so they might be easier to abduct.
Yeah, maybe.
And also I was thinking about
it could be different types too, different types of abduction based on different species. I don't know.
Could be. I mean, it's just, again, I just think it's really, when I heard the heaviness of the body, that was the first thing I went to, was astral projection.
Right. What got me though was the deep laugh that was so deep it shook the bed springs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, that's a rough. And I can you know, we've talked a little bit about it before, about the whole idea of not confirming your young people's, what they tell you, you know. So on the one hand, you know, her sister said, or her mom's sister, okay.
Yeah.
Sister said, you know, hey, don't say a monster did it, because honestly, as a parent perspective, if you go to an ER with a kid who has a cut on their arm, and they say a monster did it,
oh yeah, CPS is getting called.
Yeah,
for sure, especially this day and age.
So from on that hand, I understand, but it was also nice that she validated what happened because she brought a priest in.
Yeah, that she makes you wonder what she's experienced before in the home.
Exactly.
That she jumped at a priest real quick.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, we got to get out of here. That is a long episode. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sandra, thank you so much for sending in that story. And Kirsten, thank you for taking the time to record that and portray that for us. Thank you guys. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel. Of course, we've got some new episodes of FearScape Unhinged, as well as Paranormal Tech, a new YouTube show that we have on there. All sorts of stuff. Go to fearscapepodcast.com for all things related to FearScape. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, and I think I'll bore you guys with, you know, but I'll just mention, you know, the stores out there, the Patreons out there, we got another bunch of great shirts that are out there, some more coming. Spider rainbow.
We do have a spider rainbow shirt, people. Yeah. We got a spider rainbow shirt.
So just, you know, check us out. Everything that you do to help us only helps us, you know, bring you great content. So
it absolutely does. And you know, make sure you guys that you're checking out Socialscape, and you're just checking out all the stuff from Alan Greenfield. Again, I'm gonna push it. Check out Alan Greenfield's stuff. And of course, make sure if you have your own listener story, you can either submit it on the webpage, or you can send it to fearscapepodcast@gmail.com or any of those places, or go to our webpage and find our phone number. You can call or text and send it that way as well. We've even had some people send in pictures and videos of the sightings that they've seen.
Yep.
So we do have that phone number available for you all. But that's it. That's where I'm at. I'm ready to rock and roll. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yep.
No, you hang up.
We're going to do that again?
No. All right, guys, this has been Stefan. I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Josh. The truth is out there.
And this has been Alan Greenfield. I'm Spider Rainbow. That was portrayed by me, Stefan. All right, folks, hold those blankets extra tight, okay? Because things tend to get spooky and enlightening when you're listening to FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'm so glad you were able to join us for that horrifying discussion. I hope they didn't frighten you too much. Tune in next week for even more research into the nightmarish and haunting creeps and spooks that we tell ourselves don't exist, but we know they do. Make sure you have your blankets, that you hold them extra tight. Next time on FearScape.
He was amazing.
That was awesome. Should we go ahead and end this?
Yeah, go ahead.